occupying Omar oil field, calculation of the Syrian Kurds. The decision to join the United States has had serious political and military implications for the Syrian Kurdish fate. In the race to seize control of the largest Omar oil field in Syria, the United States was forced to expose its forces when it was unmasked by Russia, the ISIS, which is in fact the adoptive child of the United States. Meanwhile, if Syrian Kurds believe that controlling the Omar oil field is wealthy, has a weighty voice with the Syrian government, has an economic base to be able to secede, again is a serious miscalculation. Syrian Kurds are agitated, recognizing the early time when the United States believed in ISIS and the so-called peaceful opposition was capable of overthrowing Assad. The Syrian Kurds fought independently against ISIS to defend their historic lands. Does not depend on the United States. The Syrian Kurds, who do not believe in the United States, have called on Russia to supply arms against ISIS, but Russia is planning a deal with Turkey to ignore the proposal or to cooperate very limitedly. So the Syrian battle shows that the Russian-Syrian alliance is winning and that the United States, unlike Russia, is being pressured by Turkey to fill the Syrian Kurds' space. United States vacated the Syrian Kurds' gap to make post-war plans. It is the United States that supplies arms, to a new alliance called the SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, in which the main military force, the main Syrian Kurdish militia, is the YPG. And, of course, the YPG must fight for the purpose of military intent. American politics is no other. The decision by the Syrian Kurdish alliance with the United States has brought with it serious political and military consequences, if not serious, for the Syrian Kurdish fate. First, shaking hands with the United States, ISIS, to advance rapidly to the eastern Euphrates, the Syrian Kurds challenged the Russian-Syrian Turkish-Iranian alliance. Secondly, the YPG liberated and expanded its territory and claimed control over Syria's largest oil field, Al-Omar. But Arab residents living in the area did not welcome and considered YPG a liberator. The fact is that Al-Omar is just an oil profit-sharing agreement with Arab tribes in the region instead of military conflict with ISIS. Thus, Syrian Kurds have neglected to secure their historic lands in the north by Turkey, like Afrin, Manbij, while desiring to occupy an area of their own. Of course, Russia, Syria, Iran does not want YPG to join the United States in the SDF alliance, so they have to deal with the stick and the carrot. Specifically, for the first time, Assad referred to the Syrian Kurdish autonomy and changing the constitution a little too late. And Russia, Syria turned on the green light to Turkish troops threatening Afrin and Manbij. If American intentions were to weaken the post-war, turbulent SDF and SAA civil war, and if Kurdish Syria was too involved with the United States, Americans have set time for the first civil war bombs in Syria. Syrian Kurds turning TOB. It should be noted this: Syria is not a major oil producer, so there is no Syrian oil. That also does not matter to the world oil market. But what makes Syria so special is not that Syria is not finished, because Syria is a hub of oil and gas traffic in the Middle East. Unassigned by the Assad government, the oil from Kirkuk, Iraq, could not reach the Mediterranean. Gas from Qatar cannot come to Europe, Turkey, and, of course, when there were 4 T2, T3, T4, T5 gas stations under Assad's control, T1 under Iraqi management, Al-Omar oil, even if just sprayed. Where to go without the permission of Assad? Previously, when ISIS also occupied 70% of the Syrian territory, but also used the wheel pipe to sell oil smuggled to, so now, when Turkey says no, Damascus said, otherwise the oil Al-Omar, Raqqa will ship by how? Watching 2 oil pipelines on the map shows that, even if the Kurdish, Iraqi or Syrian have captured Kirkuk or Al-Omar, there is nothing to do. Therefore, if for economic purposes paranoid, but for political purposes is acceptable, they can exchange something. On the other hand, both Raqqa and Al-Omar oil fields have been completely destroyed and are outside the historic territory of the Syrian Kurds, while they have no resources to recover despite United States support. Of course, the United States do not invest money, into a dead area. No exit. Surely the Syrian Kurds, to understand this, but why the Kurds Syria did not spew bloody bones growing to the East Euphrates, but the gains such as territory, resources did not fit? Was the Iraqi Kurdish student, Iraqi Kurdish a different strategy? Notice the recent major political developments. When the Assad government declared Raqqa was occupied by United States forces, they did not call it liberated, and it was called liberation when it came to the government. A meeting will be held in Sochi, Russia, including representatives of Syrian Kurds, to join the opposition factions, considered as the post-war Syrian parliament. So, did the Syrian Kurds deliver Raqqa and Al-Omar to the Syrian authorities for a right of autonomy and benefit? Big? If this happens, the American Plan C in Syria will fail. Of course, this only happens when the Syrian Kurds do not participate too deeply in American games to become American pseudonyms.